Welcome to TOOKY'S Sidebar, a book club for edgelords. I'm David.
I'm Gilbert St. Louis, and there must be some kind of like mistake. I thought this was like the White Guys for Harris live stream.
And I'm Capitalissimo, and I'm wigged out of my mind on adrenochrome.
And we're back again to discuss Hate Spree by King Cringe, published in January of 2024. And this is our very first Patreon pick.
Shout out to King Cringe for suggesting Hate Spree 2.
Let's go! Top Tuggers!
His own novel.
Very generous of you, Mr. Cringe.
Yes. We didn't say you couldn't just pay us to do the review of your own stuff. And so we're doing that
We might be tweaking the rules going forward, but more than happy to do this one. Thank you again for your generosity, support. And King Cringe also, before we go any further, extremely nice dude. I was vaguely aware of Hate Spree before, and he sounded like a lunatic. I've interacted with a time or two in some chats and such, and oddly normal, polite, nice person. So yeah, looking forward to discussing Hate Spree. Specifically, Hate Spree 2 is what we're talking about. So we're kind of starting midstream,
correct,
in the middle of a fever dream of what it is. I guess let's start with a summary, spoiler free, of Hate Spree.
Well, I do have a message on the topic of the Tuggers, if you don't mind. Now, you see, Mr. Harad, Mr. Easymo, I love our top Tuggers. I love King Cringe. I don't think we need to shill our Patreon to them. I have a message, actually, to the person listening to this right now who hasn't paid his dues, who has not paid the money for this content. The Anon listening to this right now, who has not given his dues to our qualities, our strength, our established network of prestige. And I am sick and tired of you, Anon, yes you, holding out on us. Are you saving that $15 for a tasteful Chipotle rice bowl with a GF? Oh wait, you don't fucking have one, now do you? No, you're holding out on us. Because we put in the blood, the effort, and the sweat. And I cannot take it anymore, guys. I cannot take it. It's no more Mr. Nice Game. It's no more Sincere Sinclair. We're no
Are you
more.
gonna go on strike?
No more. I can't take
more,
it anymore. And I realize I'm going on strike.
What was it called? Skibbity toilet readings?
Wait, Gabe, you're threatening to quit?
I am threatening to quit. I am threatening. I cannot take it anymore.
Please do not sub to our Patreon.
I cannot.
Please do not. Please free me.
Gabe, you're on thin ice.
From
there
this
was a rebellion in the
association.
comments to a Skibbity episode.
I know. That's what's causing this. That is what's causing this. These imbeciles, these plebiscites, they don't understand what a real
That's not
elite...
what a plebiscite is, like a referendum.
It has plebis in its name. It's cringe. Democracy is cringe, all right? They don't understand elite human capital when they see it, all right? They don't understand it, all right?
You are lowercase, for sure.
I am uppercase, all right? I am uppercase. All my name is uppercase right now, all right? Everything I spell is in uppercase. And I realize these fucking dumb gooners, right? You think being a top tugger is a damn sex joke? You think it's about masturbating? Our top tuggers? Our toughest tuggers?
This is the pot.
Our top tuggers?
Calling the kettle a hard R.
Listen, if any educated person know, I obviously was referring to Otto von Bismarck's theory of the statesman, who must wait until he hears the steps of fortune floating through events before they leap up and tug at the hems of her garment. Right? It is a beautiful elitist right-wing call. It is a call sign. Right? And you don't notice this because you're a porn-brain gooner, Anon. You watch this shit for free. You're cheap.
Oh my god, this is so long. You've been doing this for 5 minutes. You have to stop.
No, some nights he just wants to lay in bed and he stares in the ceiling. He cannot sleep.
Oh my god.
Because he is blinded by the visions of what you could be, Anon.
Yeah.
And he cannot close his eyes through the tears.
You wouldn't steal an
EPUB. And you
EPUB.
become a top tugger today.
And I have for this show.
You would not steal an EPUB.
You wouldn't do that.
You would not steal this podcast. And if you become a top tugger today, Anon, you can make his visions.
I should also announce upcoming, a little bit of admin, upcoming topics, Gabe's performance review Next topic episode. We already agreed to it in the comments. Me and Cap are going to sit Gabe down, give him a performance review, performance improvement plan, and along with Skibbity Toilet episodes 2 and 3. So stay tuned for that.
I'll have you know, my personal Frycore has threatened to kill you over this supposed concept, by the way.
All the Gabe heads.
In that very comment chain.
I'm going to get murdered. I'm going to get killed with hammers. I know it's going to happen.
That's our call sign.
But you know what you don't have to pay for, guys? You don't have to pay a dime for Hate Spree. Because King Cringe is a nice guy. He put out for free on Substack, which I'll link below. Yeah,
on his Substack.
At the bottom of the video. Yes. And not just the book.
A word of warning. There is NSFW art.
Important note.
It's hentai and it's art on his Substack. So just FYI. And King Cringe has put a lot of effort into it. I mean, there are full 3D Blender models of murder prostitutes in here. So just to be clear, this is a very high effort project from King Cringe. So,
and well, to be clear, you can't be a hentai and do 3D blending. You would know this if you ever went to the hentai board. It's actually illegal. It's not in the traditional hentai style.
I will defer to your expertise this one time.
The wise man keeps his mouth shut to not reveal what a fool he truly is. In the presence of masters. But it's a good warning. And I guess on the topic, let's consider this sort of our general spoiler-free section talking about it. Because, yeah, it's sort of it's a multimedia project. There's the art, the visuals, and there's 2 novels. Probably some other stuff I haven't even seen yet. But it's extremely... how would you call it? Reaction focused. It's purposefully edgelordy to the max. It's like 230 page action sequence. It's extremely frenetic. If this was an animated feature, there would be action movement lines in the background of everything, and every line would be shouted. So yeah, it's there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on. The concept is if you think of the political quadrants, authoritarian, libertarian, left, right. Essentially, what the concept here is that you have a Power Rangers-esque, in fact, called the Cringe Rangers group, each of which is occupying roughly some quadrant. It's not super like 1-to-1. So the dramatis personae is on the authoritarian right. You have the Wasp, who is a guy in yellow and black armor who is saving himself for marriage, and kind of has that sort of perspective. He's basically the only religious one. And then you have the authoritarian left, who is a communazi named Nikita, Austrian painter, except not Austrian painter. Wait, I think we could just say that. We can just say that, can't we? Yeah. We're not monetized. It's Nikita Hitler. But we can't say what's on the first page. That's off limits.
Yeah, no kidding. No
off
kidding.
Limits.
Yeah,
off limits. We can't do iDubbbz. We can't go iDubbbz.
On the lib left, there is the White Knight, who is a gooning woman respecter. Mm-hmm. But he's not cringe about it. He is cringe, but it's all cringe in a given light. And then,
well, he's the sensitive young man.
He is the sensitive young man of the group. And then on the libertarian right, you have Frankie Sheckelstein, who is a libertine Jewess who is all about the shekels.
Best girl.
You are the worst person. And they basically they kill the Illuminati and conquer the Undercity. That's the whole concept.
In the year 2033, and they are going on these sort of, I don't even know not a concept, but just superhero adventures. They're sort of their own little Justice League of cringe lords.
Actually, no, the villains are the Social Justice League.
They are the Social Justice League. Yeah, that's true. So are we? Is that sufficient for you guys? Do you have anything to add to the general comments on this?
Well, I mean, that's sort of the plot. Sorry, go ahead, Gabe. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, everything we're going to talk about, from the political compass to the jokes to the references, just imagine that some guy was frozen. The classic, this guy got a concussion, like on like the Kekistan rally meeting, and he just woke up from cryo sleep. This is literally Frozen 2014 to 2015 humor. So just expect this when you read this or are listening to this. Just expect that kind of.
I actually think that 2014, 2015 humor that's probably a little late for a lot of this. I mean, this is like to me, and this might just be the difference in our age, in our ages, but like I would probably put this at like 2005 Lulso random era B, right? Mm-hmm. That's probably where I would put the pin down. Mm-hmm. But you get what we're saying. Like this is that type of edgelordism. Yeah. Like it's like it's deliberately juvenile
in a good and bad way. It's like it's just trying to be as stupid and ridiculous as possible, and it works sometimes. A lot of times it doesn't, and I'm sure that where I want to fit this, I have some issues with the way it's written, and maybe.
Well, I think we should just get into the thing and
the meat of it.
Yeah. Let's just get into the meat of it, and we can talk about that.
All right, and we can put in I guess this is the sort of the spoiler warning. You know, we'll kind of go through the story some, go through the details, but like we said, it's free, so pick it up, check it out if you're not on a work computer. If anyone's around.
Yeah, not on a work computer, but it's a risk-free trial.
Yeah.
You know,
well, unless you're working for Baltic in law, in that case you have to be horny while at work.
Yeah, in which case this could help you.
Yeah.
This could help potentially if you're into, you know, some stuff.
If you're at Baltic and Baltic law firm, yeah, you'll probably get a promotion if they catch this on your computer. I like that it's out there though. Like I dig the freakiness of this, and I think there's a lot of cool stuff going on here, even if I think some of the writing doesn't quite work, which I think we'll get into more as it goes. I'm scared to hand the reins over to Gabe for anything plot related. So, Cap, would you like to give us a little bit of an intro?
Nope.
Then we can start diving in.
So the thing is, this is sort of my main note on this. Like, I would have enjoyed this more if it was anything other than a novel. Essentially, the plot is extremely beat for beat. It's a circular plot, so you know exactly what's going to happen next time. So and I'm going to give you this rundown. This is a 12 point because it repeats itself. It's like rule of threes. So they kill the Illuminator. He gets double crossed by the Illuminati secretaries. The MacGuffin, in this case, an AI that Wasp wore on his wrist, gets stolen by one of the Illuminati secretaries, Semen Demon. Then they go fight Semen Demon. Another Illuminati secretary, because they're in a civil war now, intervenes. They beat Semen Demon. Futures steals the MacGuffin. There's a brief downtime. They go to one of Frankie's old friends, Bangkok, who is a prostitute, who is a matter, and Bangkok assists them. They go to fight Futures, Cutie Anon intervenes, steals the MacGuffin. They go to Screamin' Eagle for help, who is a friend of Wasp, who turns out to be a paraplegic neo-Confederate chick who opens beer bottles with her cooch. And then they have their, I skipped a little bit, but they have their second run-in with a seemingly feeble Illuminati secretary named DIE, Diversity, Inclusion, and Equity, who, is a sort of a Grimo Wormtongue character. He's a coward who keeps running away and refuses to fight them. Let's see. At this point, the MacGuffin is in the hands of Adreno King, and then they get pursued by Riggs, and both of these are more Illuminati secretaries. Shadowban, Nikita Hitler's mentor, appears to assist them. They have another run-in with DIE. They fight Riggs. They have, at this point, killed all the Illuminati secretaries, except they haven't, so it's a battle royale. Then they kill all of them. DIE is revealed as the protagonist because he has protagonist syndrome, because he's a wokey. All of the Illuminati dies. The AI gets rewritten by the protagonist, and inhabits the body of the Illuminator, which was mostly cybernetic. They run away, barely escaping with their lives. They jailbreak an old associate of White Knight. So now they've gotten the associated B squad for every person, and have another skirmish, and then form up with all of the allies together for a showdown. There's a big battle scene, and then they fight on the astral plane to get the AI back on their side. They have a showdown with the protagonist. The AI removes his plot armor, and then they defeat all of the adversaries, conquer the city, and in the epilogue, Wasp and Frankie are marrying, and there is an insurrection that is footnoted away in the next paragraph, and that's the end of the book.
Well, don't forget that she had several objects shoved up her posterior during the wedding ceremony.
Yeah, that was a really important plot point that I completely skipped. That doesn't matter.
We would be here all night if we talk about every anal insertion or cum shot or bucket of cum or whatever in this book.
What I'm pointing out here is that you have this circular thing where fight this, new guy has thing, go get thing, right? Every single one of these encounters is basically a fight scene. The only time there's any conversation is when they're like gonna go get any. I mean, they're talking through every single fight scene. It's like an anime fight scene.
Yeah.
The only time that they're having any sort of like conversation that actually moves the plot forward in any real way is when they're like going to talk to one of their associates. As a novel, I don't know. This would have been a kick-ass video game. This would have been way better as a comic
animation.
Book. It would have been amazing. It would have been actually, it reminded me of an animation called Dead Leaves, which it's like this short from like the mid 2000s, made by the guy who founded Studio Trigger, and it's like very light on plot, very high on vulgarity, like total like end-to-end action scene with very little downtime.
Yeah.
And like it's got its own aesthetics, and it basically founded Studio Trigger. So but the dialogue is nothing but vulgarity. The set pieces are amazing, but in fact, this novel, it's almost perfect that you could hand it to someone for an adaptation, because you haven't there's not a whole lot of scenery being described.
Yeah, very little description, extremely high on
action.
Yeah, well, action. I was gonna say dialogue. The dialogue is almost always. It's the strong preference for formatting where it's just name : dialogue, which is it's very.
It's almost like a screenplay.
Yeah, it is screenplay-esque for sure. And there's a lot of passion from the writer, and there's a lot of funny idea, and there's sometimes I laugh, the dog bitches section. I actually made me chuckle because it was just so ridiculous. And there's these glints in there, but it's something about the format of the novel. And I'd like to quote, if you guys would bear with me. I have
so many quotes, actually.
Well, actually, this is a quote from a third party.
Boo.
Brandon Sanderson, peace be upon him. A reading from Sora 13, action scenes from his series talking about writing. And it applies to this. He says, Jackie Chan in a movie, 1/6 of the screen time could be an action scene. You wouldn't get tired of it. But in books, with the way actions can be repetitive, or you shoot here, you shoot there, it wears you out. And with this one, as a novel, it doesn't work as well because, like you said, Cap, there was another interrelated concept of scene sequel. People in the writing world will know, where a scene is kind of an arbitrary distinction, but scenes are where actions will happen, decisions are made, and then sequels they're just scenes. They're like a short contained discussion or internal monologue. But a sequel is following every scene. You have a response, a meditation on what happened, and a decision on what the next scene should be from the character or for someone on the character. And that's kind of missing from this. Not that I'm not a strict, you have to follow a certain system person, but those two things could come to me where it's just you get dialogue fatigue and that. And then the third part of that being the writing style itself is very focused on this action that you run into blocking issues where the characters, you don't know where characters are because the 4 characters are always moving in tandem. And so that means you always have 5 people in a scene, which is actually a lot when you're writing. 5 people is a shitload of people to manage, especially when their position is important. This isn't like everyone sitting around the tea table in a Jane Austen novel. This is people riding dildo trains and getting kicked into buckets of cum. And then, so it creates this atmosphere along with a lack of description of what areas are like. You very often lack a concrete image in your head of Nikita is here, Wasp is here. It's just, instead it's just these barks. Whereas if this was an animation, that wouldn't be a problem. That would be established by a visual. But here, that was probably one of my biggest things in terms of just actually being in the world and accepting as it is.
You know what this reminds me of? Yeah, if you remember the book by Philip K. Dick, Man in the High Castle, you know how he finds the film from our world? This is the equivalent of this is a script for Based World Saints Row from the Based World universe of video games. This would be you could remake if you put all of this dialogue, you could remake this in you could make Saints Row 5 with this, or you could make you could make Borderlands 4 with this.
Based Teen Titans.
Oh my god.
Let's go.
This is really He Will Not Divide Us era poll in video game format. This is literally what those guys would make as a video game. It's Kekistan as a video game, basically.
Yeah. So I mean, that is the it's both the carrot and the stick of Hate Spree, is that it's video game dialogue, right? And it's all dialogue,
which can sparkle. I don't want to make it sound.
Oh, I mean, it's
chuckled.
It's it is
and not added either. With it,
it
was sometimes it gets so ridiculous. It is funny.
Yeah, I mean I completely glossed. I just gave you the names of the characters here, but you know, the Illuminator is the head of the Illuminati, and he's a like 150-year-old wigger. Like that's him, and all of his henchmen are the trans guard, right?
Well, don't forget the Dark Ape.
Yeah. Well, tell me about the Dark Ape. Talk about Dark Ape.
Well,
in a YouTube friendly way.
You know, the Dark Ape is
He's Ted Kaczynski.
You know,
he's Ted Kaczynski, and his uniform is a high-tech monkey suit so that he can return to monkey.
Yes. Yeah, so we'll put it that way.
And I don't know, like, a semen demon is a bimbo berserker. Like, she snorts jizz as a combat drug. Like, that's her thing.
Yeah, she recharges her boss, you know, power level. It's like, oh, I'm going too slow in the fight. They recharged.
Yeah, and she does it by like sucking. No, she recharges by sucking.
No,
on condoms,
she snorts them. She snorts them.
Yeah.
She absolutely boofs that shit.
Sorry, I was not doing a close reading of that. I failed as a Straussian for this text.
It's okay.
Oh god.
They put the onomatopoeia of snort in there. It's like a full line.
You know what this novel did for me? It did the impossible for me. It made me feel sorry for women.
Why?
It did. Well,
because you're a sensitive young man.
There's that great scene. I'm a sensitive young man. I care for my father Gia's rubbed off too much on me at this point. There's this great scene. I would say we should do a reading or capture to read something, but I generally do not think you could find a paragraph that would go through YouTube.
I've got one.
Current day YouTube. Oh, pop off, go for it.
All right.
Right
this is a scene from when they are trying to get help from Screamin' Eagle. Wasp had been, Wasp had been communicating with Screamin' Eagle on the internet. Screamin' Eagle has extremely good OPSEC, and he believes Screamin' Eagle to be an old vet guy who, you know, sort of a Whistler from Blade character who tinkers with technology and is very security conscious. They discover when they get there that Screamin' Eagle is a redheaded neo-Confederate wearing a slingshot bathing suit, leaving nothing to the imagination, sitting in a wheelchair, swearing, smoking, and drinking. And Screamin' has a little interaction with Gabe's new waifu, Frankie. Screamin' says, "See here, ginger is an anagram of hard R, and because of that, Jewish movie producers always race swap out us gingers in movies for hard R. It's a crafty way that them Jews do word magic shit trying to affect the future." Frankie says, "See, fuck movie stars. You would have made a great porn star. You see, movie stars and porn stars are the same thing. They both kowtow and suck off some old ugly bastard Jew, but only one has the generosity to do the public service of recording it so others can jack off to it too. Plus, if you were a porn star, you wouldn't be race swapped and would get cast as a hot-ass ginger." Screamin', "Hun, just because I dress like a tramp don't mean I want to actually suck off an old dirty Jew producer." Frankie sat stumped. Shit. You've got a point.
Kino.
That was a reference. That was a reference to the sexual assault of coincidentally Jewish producer Harvey Weinstein, and should not be interpreted as a more general statement on people of the Talmud.
Yeah, particularly the person of the Talmud who funds this podcast.
We love you, Mr. Thiel.
I think it's Teal, by the way.
Whatever.
I beg your boss.
When you're a good goy, you can use either pronunciation.
If he wants me to pay that much attention to the correct pronunciation, he can start paying me enough to pay my mortgage. So.
Yeah. Listen, I mean, Gabe put out the plea, put out the bat signal. Come on, Mr. Teal, please.
Listen, Plan B pills are hiking up the prices. So, you know, when Dasha gets the crate full, man, he's running thin now. He's running thin. He's got too much money in her Plan Bs and JD Vance's eyeliner. You know, he's stretched thin economically, man. But no, back to the book. I think that's a great reading, partly because it's probably one of the few segments that can be read in full, and B, I Cap read entire. Would you? How much would someone have to spend to get you to read the whole thing?
I did read the whole thing.
No, the whole book. Hate Street Cap.
Oh, you mean
Cap.
Have me read the whole? Actually, I mean, I think that
yes.
There's too many
like
characters. I think I would do a table read. I would do a table read of the book.
It would be keynote. Well, the texture of this book is a lot different than Moan, for example, which is the closest thing to it in our au revoir that we've done so far. The difference between this and Moan was that Moan was much more sincere in his depiction of violence, and the humor was accidental. The humor was Kafka-esque in Moan, while here it is like Ren and Stimpy obvious in terms of the humor. There's a great scene where they just went from the meat shop, and so Bangkok is a meaty mistress of the night, you could say, because it is an Asian brothel, but they're all carved up. They all have these tattoos, like when you go to a pig shop and you got the loins and it's like $7.99. It's like a diagrams, right? And it's a great aesthetic. It's a great idea. You're in a den of flesh and you pick out the piece you want. It's carved, it's curvaceous, it's predatory. You feel awesome, right? It's very Bronze Age, right? But they don't play with it enough. He just goes directly to the climax. What did they do to these women here? Did they actually do like cannibalism, or did they do like a little thing? No, the has a great rhetoric of a butcher shop brothel. But they just kind of do basic climaxing. They do basic pearl necklaces, if you catch my drift. Again, it's hard to discuss this on a YouTube-friendly way.
But it's not described in a sensory way, right? It's very...
Yes, exactly.
It's not not as superficial, but it's very simple and direct, and like, here's what's happening. And what's being described is ridiculous, but there's not a lot of like attention to making it... It's not that there is attention to making it pop, and the use of the point of view is really good in some places, because they'll have these cheeky little side comments about, oh, this is what an indie right-wing writer would say, or the boob comments where he's like, and the big honkers happens several times.
Trust me, they were enormous.
Yeah.
The big fat fucking milkers.
Yeah, but the sensor, there's no sensory interiority, which I know that's not the main focus of this, but like that would build more of that, what you're describing, Gabe, that grungy, or like lustful thing.
Yes, yeah, because the setting calls for it. It's very sensory. I don't smell that butcher shop. You gotta know it smells like shit in there, but in a very arousing way, right? It's not sensory. It's not on the nerves. The problem with this as a text, or what we struggle with this text, is in a lot of ways it is what the left had to do when the famous incident of Marcel Duchamp, when he did the quote unquote fountain piece, Duchamp de Comte, he was the father of Dadaism, but the forerunner to Surrealism. When he did everyone knows this. A co-founder of Dadaism. He was one of the head persons.
I
have no idea what you're talking about. I just tuned out Gabe as soon as he started to get into specifics. Like, I'm sure this is not right.
This is 100% true. This is 100% true. All right. This is is the leftist, the rightist version of that incident, where art as politics, where you have these people in the early, Weimar versus pre-Weimar, who wanted to detangle meaning from art. That it was purely in a state of play or state of destruction or state of chaos, right? And of course, all Anons would know this. Same thing with, to a certain degree, we all know the crucifix in a jar of piss. In a lot of ways, there's a direct quote from this novel I think sums up this novel perfectly. Wasp says to Frankie, showing your butthole to own the libs? And she's like, yeah, for sure. Right? And this is exactly describes this novel. This is showing your butthole to own the libs for our version. This is our version of the fountain, aka the toilet, or the crucifix in the piss jar. It is a statement upon itself. It's not a narrative. It's not a fiction. It's an exhortation of a certain idea. This is purely like because he knows people are not going to read this for fun. You're going to have this for a laugh. You're not going to reread this for entertainment or for characters or something like this. This is a very specific thing, and it in a lot of ways feels out of date. This would have been popular about 10 to 5 years ago. Because for the modern right, I know we disagree on whether the audience should be considered or not, but for the modern right, is the sex stuff is just far too out there. In the early Kekistan days and those days was more, you could be a little more raunchy with sex, but with the current era of right-wing commentators, right-wing art, it is a lot more prudish, except for the Baptists, for my fellow Baptists. But in a lot of fundamental ways, I think this text is more of just a mission statement. He does it because he can, right? And he sent it to us because we know we are the right-wing reviewers. We're the only ones who will be able to talk about it publicly, right? So this is the tricky thing about talking about this text, is because you can't talk about it via its point. The point is the fact that the text exists in itself, not anything within the text. Just like the only reason why people talk about the fountain is because when it happened, it was ridiculous to think of a toilet within the museum. If you didn't have the context of a museum, then you wouldn't have a context of thinking the toilet was meaningful. If you didn't have the context of woke culture or the culture war or anything, this text would not exist. The whole point, the whole bite to it, its teeth would be completely defanged if you don't consider the society surrounding it.
Then you're giving it credit to in that way. It's not as simple as an image or something that's purely you only get it if it's relative. Like there is a story there. I agree to an extent. Like it is literally reactionary in the way it's trying to escalate and amplify the sort of the current culture, and you could say it's outdated in some ways, but I think it could work. I think it's just something about the format here, and Cap hit on it with it being a novel versus something else, and like maybe it should be short stories or flash fiction if you want to keep it in fiction. But I think a visual element would be a smart decision of some kind, like a web comic, 3D web comic.
Yeah, if you want to keep it in fiction, you should have done this. I mean, it should be a graphic novel. I mean, it could be a fucking serial. Probably actually a serial novel wouldn't even be good. I mean, like the plot, the circularity of the plot is really more of like a video game thing.
Yeah, or a good comic book, because his art style is actually good. Like the design of Wasp is kind of kick-ass, to be honest.
No, yeah, like he's definitely got his own sort of like ultra grimy, edgy style going on. I could definitely imagine him doing a cool comic with that.
Yeah, and I think it would find a market. I don't think people are so prudish. Like it has shifted and will continue to shift, but there's always going to be gooners out there, and maybe it's you appeal to those types of people, the Gabes out there. There's more than a few, and if there's that sort of, I don't know, it's just hard because a novel is such a demanding thing to get through relative to these other formats we're talking about. So again, you get someone, actually unironically, just skibbity-fy this thing. Think about it. Skibbity-fy hate spree, short flash videos or images or comics. I mean, it's so much easier to handle a really strong flavor because it has such a strong artistic styling and flavor.
Now that you've said it, I mean, you'd blow up on Newgrounds if you did that. If you released that shit on Newgrounds, you would, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's for all the old heads. This is just a less refined version of Murdoch from back in the day. And also, as a resident Deleuzian skibidologist, I actually do agree with Dave here. Like this, in a lot of ways, oddly enough. Do y'all remember the film Unbreakable?
Yeah. With
Bruce Willis and Samuel Jackson?
Yeah. That was the best one from that guy.
Yeah, no, it's a fantastic film. And the ending is great. It does it perfectly when he reveals, they call me Mr. Glass, right? In a lot of ways.
Yeah, no one saw that coming.
We all know.
Back in the day.
It was a good reveal.
You didn't, Cap, when you were a young man.
Halcyon days. Sensitive young man. Right, but in a lot of ways, this book, oddly enough, when you relate it to all the other books, what's useful in this book, actually, what I generally think has a purpose and a goal, and actually in a good way, is to read it in the context of all the other books we read. Nutcracker, Incel, Pastor's Prize, even. This is that book. Like, this book describes a moment in a mood. This is very evocative, because I always tell you all this all the time. I would love for a moment to talk about the early days of the Gamergate right wing, right, which is the Gamergate era, right from 2014.
If you wrote a Substack about it, we could talk about it.
Hold on. So you're basically, what you're suggesting here is that this is like the Marvel slappa from Based World. It's like someone reached through a portal,
hell yeah,
and pulled out the slappa from Based World, and like we have it in here, and it's this artifact.
Yes, in a lot of ways, like, it's that, because I remember I was in the Chicago Art Museum recently, and there's this beautiful German engraving, this medieval engraving, and it's a guy shitting. And it's a wood carving. This guy literally did a wood carving of this guy shitting, and he's filled with these little tickets surrounding the tickets, and all the tickets are different German words for shit. And you can see this right next to this beautiful Caravaggio-esque painting, right? And I in a lot of ways, I think from an archaeological or from a right-wing anthropology standpoint, this is that version of this. You're seeing the art form at its very base. You see right-wing art on the folk level. And you can see this in contrast with Nutcracker. Because if Nutcracker is a horny novel, I joked about this being Baltic-esque. It's not really Baltic-esque. You realize that when you read a Baltic short story or a Baltic novel, he will describe tits, but he will describe it not only as in to sexually titillate. There's a joke in there, the way he describes it, especially with the short story. He plays with an image of big boobs, and he transforms it multiple times throughout the text and recontextualizes it. He will serve in a concept of her tits are hanging out, right? But then it will turn into submarine battle carriers if she gets defensive. The boobs actually reflect the mood of the girl, which is actually really, really cool and really interesting. Well, with him, it always ends with twerking, jacking off, and of course, cinnamon glazing and some rat cracking here and there. He does the obvious punchline, but I think from a Freudian standpoint, this is a great look at the right-wing id. Same thing way, I'll do an example from Bowden. Bowden did this great talk where he talked about Lenin's view on art. His associate, Lenin, asked Lenin a story one time. Why do you support all this art? Because, Lenin was supporting any artist, left-wing artist that would come into the Soviet Union and would publish or show anything as long as it was reactionary or revolutionary, sorry. And Lenin says, I think it's crap, but I like it because it destroys the system, right? And I think that's the way to approach this. This is oddly enough our early revolutionary art, right? This encapsulates the id. We should support it, and in a lot of ways, it should exist just because as a form of acceleration, right? Because this will repulse anyone default. When anyone thinks, any normie thinks of right-wing art, or you think of like dissident right-wing art, like the people who hate on Red Scare to like a notorious degree, I'm talking about the scene, for example, they think of 4chaners saying the F word, or a bundle of sticks, or the N word. That's all right-wing art is. And this is that encapsulated. It is in your face. It is vulgar. It is vulgar.
The first chapter title is Hard RF Slur. Like that's the title.
It is the callback to for my generation's Ozymandias IDubs, right? It was his catchphrase. He was our Ozymandias, all right? You look at his works of despair now.
Clearly,
right?
Yeah, he sure does.
And right, but you don't understand what I'm trying to say. Is like, you can't have Nutcracker or Incel, because Incel would not exist if you did not have the Incel ghetto. If you didn't have the very, very worst of Incel culture, the id, just a raw, gritty id, you would not have Han's book without that id. And I think it's important to have books like this that just hit you on the nerve. There's nothing else. There's nothing but subliminalness. There's nothing but the neurological reaction. This is ultimate reactionary because there's no logos. There's no logos in this at all. No rhetoric, anything.
There's no
pure just dopamine.
Attempting to negotiate or say, well, I'm not actually a right-wing artist. I'm actually a new wave writer. Like maybe I've heard Gabe, you have said with someone.
Called out.
And maybe you think that.
You.
But you know what? I'm sorry to tell you, you are a right-wing artist, and this guy is just rolling in the filth and loving it, whatever you want to say about it.
Yeah.
Yes, no, you know how waves start? Because it's like the seismic plates underneath the ocean are shifting. This is the subterranean plates of the earth shifting to cause the new wave of art.
Mm-hmm.
This is the biodiesel for the futurist, the Italian futurist art style. And I actually, in a lot of ways, if when you think of Tommaso Marinetti, right, when he talks about the destruction of the museums, the destruction of academia, art is to be inflicted upon the viewer. It's supposed to be pound you. It's supposed to have a innate reaction, right? This, I hate to say it, is a futurist text based on that criteria. It instantly, on the nerve, it hits you raw. You either like it or you don't, based on the first sentence of the text. And the reason why we're having difficulties in a lot of ways to even discuss this novel, other than, rest in peace, Susan Wachowski.
Yeah.
Yes, due to that woman's work on YouTube. But even then, it's to even discuss it is to defeat the point of the text. This is for Anons, his friends, to read and laugh and say, dude, this is based in red pill. As the old GIF we used to say with the fire GIF back in the day. This is based in red pill. This is to cater to your just on the nerve dopamine receptor nostalgia when you're 14 or 15 watching the He Will Not Divide Us stream for the first time. This is peak that mindset. And it succeeds perfectly. It is political pornography, I guess you could say, at its best, or even more better, at its worst. And you enjoy every second of it. Like y'all said, it literally is just a pig rolling in it and accepting it and glorifying it. And I support it. I gotta say, I would not read this for fun again. I wouldn't. But I'm glad that it exists, and it should exist. I think as a gravitational, either going towards it or going away from it, you need something like this. You need an id to center around. And if you're a right-wing artist listening to us right now, this is something necessary to build on top of. Whether you like it in a negative context or in a positive context, you use this as your North Star for a sense of direction you want to go to.
I agree, and I'm excited to see what he comes out with next, because he has such a clear vision. He's really ballsy, and he's very dedicated to his craft, I can tell. But there's just something mismatching, like Cap, you said right at the start, about the novel as a form which is somewhat antiquated, slow, and it's not the way that this type of content, this, He Will Not Divide Us, that was a video. Murdoch, that was short videos. It's not the format that this type of thing is usually shared in, and I think it does well in. And so I think he needs workshopping or to rethink, and I do think he should get feedback from other people, and like we're giving some now, and just come up with what he does next. I just don't think the novel is the way to get this message out, and it's to get people out. I think, like, to me, opening it up and seeing that big logo with the four the character art in the diagram, like that was like, to me, that was like the peak. I was like, oh, I totally get this. This is fucking awesome. Going through some of the character art, reading the first part, I was like, it's cool, it's intense. But then it just goes on, and it's like, oh, it's the same. It's all action.
I mean,
and then there's also the more crafty side.
He also made Blender models for like every character up to chapter 7 in this.
So he has the skill for this stuff.
Dude, make a mod. Like, talk to some people who do mods for. I don't know. Pick an engine.
Gary's mod.
Go nuts.
Postal 2.
Like,
oh yeah, Postal 2 would be amazing.
Postal 2 isn't you can't use those models. He already made the models.
Oh.
Postal 2 is like a 3/4 isometric shooter.
Which one's the one?
He know?
No, was it Postal 2? Was that the one where
Postal 2?
where you have the cat on the shotgun and you shoot out its butt?
You piss on people, yeah, and you
Oh,
get milk.
oh no!
Damn, who's the boomer here?
Sorry, I'm actually thinking of Postal.
Oh.
Fake gamer girl moment now from Cap of all people, and y'all give me shit for not playing Half-Life 2.
Well, you played Postal 2, and they came out like the same fucking year. You definitely should have played Half-Life 2 instead.
Well, guess what? Postal 2 has something Half-Life 2 doesn't. So
You are retarded.
fight me.
Like, there is no way.
Listen, Half-Life 2 is a great. It's It's a great demo for the engine. I'm glad.
You've never played that game. You have never played that game. You have never played. You are regurgitating. You have no. I mean, like you've literally said to me that you've never played the game. So you're regurgitating something that someone said on YouTube. You goddamn Zoomer.
Listen. It is a great demo for the Source engine.
Oh my god!
Vampire Masquerade used it as a
Shut up!
base.
Shut up!
Awesome.
Shut up!
Vampire Masquerade is
overrated.
amazing. I will stand
It
by
is
that.
great. It is great. Half-Life gave us Vampire, and that's the best contribution it's ever did.
God.
And it gave us Steam.
Oh my god!
Actually, when you think about it, Hate Spree is the Half-Life 2 of our scene.
No,
Right? Because
no.
it's not the thing within itself. It is It gives us the tools to build on top of it. Half-Life 2 gave us the Source engine, which gave us Gator's Mod, which gave us Skippity Toilet.
It all makes sense now.
When you think mentally, Hate Spree is the Source engine. It is the code in which we can program the right-wing art of the future. All of our books we've read so far gives the right-wing future its brain, but this book gives the right-wing future its teeth and its nerves and its erection. And of course,
my god!
The balls. No. Hate Spree is the balls, and Nutcranker's the
Look,
penis.
I definitely
It's tasteful
respect.
penis.
I definitely respect like the cutting loose and like the burping, the farting, the dick and balls jokes. Right, big fan of that. Would never counter signal. Would never counter signal that. I just you're really overselling this. This okay.
I think I'm very.
It is a
accurately
seminal
describing
work in a way.
Yeah, it's a semen-y work.
Yes, exactly.
My advice is if someone wants to read this, it's free. Go look at it. Like it is a maximum effort thing.
It's worth clicking the link.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah, absolutely do that. But like this is not in the top of the stuff that we've covered. Like I super respect the effort here. I would pay $60 for a video game of this. Day one, I'd pre-order it. Like
it's based World Saints Row. It really is based World Saints Row.
Like make the mod, man. It would kill. But as like it's so I don't know if I'm like harping on this too much, but it's rare that you find an artwork that is in a radically incorrect medium. Like it should be anything other than a novel. I'd listen to the album of this, like video game, movie, animation. There are so many other ways that this could have been realized. And I mean, even if you reworked this a little, it totally could be. It's all right here.
Well, actually, couldn't you argue the same for a lot of pulp fiction, like Conan, for example?
No,
I mean, Conan lives on because let's be honest, like Frank Frazetta paintings, the film. Howard was not a pro stylist.
That's not why he got big. He got big before they made the art because it was Big Gabe. They didn't get Arnold Schwarzenegger to act.
Robert E. Howard.
Random dickhead.
Robert E. Howard can definitely write.
True.
Yeah.
No,
but you just said the opposite.
Remember, he could write, but Conan. If you remember the story of Conan, it went in and out. It went in multiple people's hands. It was not development hell, but like legal copyright hell for like decades after his death. And with Conan or something like this is pulp. This is the pulpiest of pulps. This is what like snobs think Pulp Fiction is. And I don't know, what would y'all say in general for something like this? What makes edgy art edgy? And why, for something like this, why is edgy art considered a synonym for bad art nowadays?
I don't think it is. I mean, edgy is
really?
just... I mean, edgy is like immature, but it's okay to be intentionally... It's okay to be intentionally immature. Like, there's... A lot of comedy is that.
Wait,
I think you're conflating pulp with not the writing not standing up very well, Gabe, because pulp is like a style and an emphasis on where the attention is. But I was pointing out, like, in terms of the craft stuff, like the action blocking, scene sequel, the way scenes are broken out, and stuff like that, which is masterfully done in good pulp.
True.
And then I felt like didn't quite work here.
Right.
So to call something pulp is it's never, in my opinion, it's never to say the writing is not good. It's that it's of a certain emphasis of like, what the story's about and what how fast things move.
It sounds like Cope from a pulp author.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, I'm with David on this one. Like, I think that, this is... I guess I see what you mean when you say it's kind of... I mean, it's campy, right? It's campy. They use onomatopoeia for sound effects of explosions in it. Like, it's...
Monesque.
Yeah.
Well, Moan did it better. Moan was the king of Anapia. Like,
wait.
King,
say that again. Try that
Cringe,
again.
You're apprenticed. Moan did it better.
No, say the word.
Anapia?
Onomatopoeia.
Onomatopoeia.
Oh, you got it. You got it. Okay, you just had to...
The
parrot can learn.
Right. And also an interesting case. You got a very interesting version of parody, right? Because this is edgy, but I actually don't think Moan is edgy.
Moan is edgy.
You get what I'm saying?
Moan is edgy.
Moan isn't.
Also, you're comparing King Cringe to an actual like schizophrenic. I don't know. Hey, maybe King Cringe has some severe mental disorder, and we're gonna. This is gonna be a.
This will get Cap.
Oh my god! I'm gonna get killed with a hammer.
Someone's
That's how it is. I never thought it would come from that.
Zoomer Squad, total Cap death. But thing is, this is the like platonic ideal of our version of the toilet in the museum. This existing is that, right? Because it makes you question.
Is this an epistolary novel?
No, it is not.
Okay, good.
It's.
I'm gonna have to.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to lean
in
into this. Also, isn't Marcel Duchamp's Fountain?
This isn't really for our version of it, our equivalent of it. You don't think so?
No, like. No, I don't even. I'm not even sure. I completely follow your connection there. Like it's not.
Its existence is a critique of what's surrounding it. Duchamp did it to mock the concept of the institution of art and the rigorous standards.
Sure, yeah, he was making fun of the institution. I don't think this is making fun of the institution. I don't think that this is a critique of that. I think that Hate Spree is it's an attempt to be like joyfully edgy and unfiltered. Like.
Right, but that would be our version of that. It's purposely
offensive
to the to liberal hegemony. Yeah, there's a blasphemy against liberal hegemony.
Okay, but is that just then all reaction is just like what that the problem is that you can't, like, there's no boundary on that statement. Like it has this does not exist in negation. I think it exists in a positive format. Like, I think that it doesn't only exist in reflection of like other shit is not edgy.
True, but the reason why I incorporate not just Duchamp, but also the idea of obviously
I love how you change his name every single time you say it.
I know, I'm a verbal Dadaism. I'm carrying on his legacy, right? I'm deterritorializing the concept of language.
Oh my God.
So And also, of course, the pickle jar of urine with the crucifix in it. With this, what I'm saying is, you can, yes, it is something to create. It is creative. It's not only there to negate. It's something to build off of, right? On the concept of the id thing. But I do think fundamentally, on the base level, you are going to read this because it owns the lib. It's showing the butthole to own the libs. That is the fundamental, like, reptilian part of your brain that's like, dude, based. Your 14-year-old self, based. This owns the libs, right?
I think it's just shit posting. Like it's shit posting as art.
The classical old man at Sky millennial Cap versus the new wave Delusian Gabe. But But I think we've tugged this topic enough. I do think we gave it a thorough tugging, you know. And if King Cringe has some complaints, you know, he could take up with Mr. Thiel, and I'm sure, you know, he has a foreskin surgery. He can help with that tugging addiction.
Yeah, no, like I said, I'll just repeat. Looking forward to what he does next. I think he has a lot of passion, a lot of ideas, and he's a talented guy. So
and King,
maybe this one didn't quite hit, but maybe the next one.
And real quick, King Cringe, if you're listening to this, when you do Hate Spree 3, I give you full permission to blurb. Hate Spree is the Half-Life 2 of right-wing art. I give you full permission to do that on the front cover.
Oh my god.
You hate it because you know it's true.
Doesn't make any sense.
Thanks, It's actually illegal. It's not in the traditional hentai style.